Hello, welcome to the Art Block with Ant and Derek. I'm Ant.
And I'm Derek.
And we thank you for joining us today. We have a really special guest today. We'll bring out a little bit later on. Derek, let's get right to it. Our topic this episode is music.
Yes.
And sort of a brief history and the state of music now.
Yes. Well, obviously we know that music comes from the word muse as inspiration and, lyrical. And it has, what do you, did you think progression of music in the last 50, 60 years?
Personally, I think it's gotten worse. But,
Okay.
That's just me. That might have to do with the older man in me. As you age, you always
I think the younger generation is.
It wasn't as good as when I was a little.
Yes.
But my thing with music, I wanted to hit on with this topic was I think music sort of lost its originality, and it's also, I think, lost its
creativity.
Creativity. Its pizzazz. I don't think we have performers as much nowadays as we used to have. I don't think we had a lot of people. We have a lot of people with stage presence as much anymore. It's sort of this kind of cookie cutter. Let's just churn them out. Feed this fast food restaurant mentality. And I think that's evident with stuff like American Idol.
Well, yeah. And other music shows like
any shows, right.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, we're practically the same age, so I agree with you. There has been kind of like lackadaisical.
Yes, there has very much so.
I mean, there's a lot of creatively laziness. I guess you might say.
It is. There's, and I'm not going to say everybody falls in that category. There's some great singers out there. There's some great guitar players out there. Some great musicians out there nowadays. Of course there are. But it's almost as if there's a lot of studio production now. And I'm not saying they didn't have studio production in the older days. Of course they did. But you have these people having their voices completely changed
with the auto.
Exactly. Well, just not only the auto tune, but just somebody like Britney Spears, who I've heard I've never seen her live, but I've heard repeatedly she just really can't sing. It's a lot of it's in the studio work.
Well, yeah. What really surprised me, Lady Gaga wrote some of Britney Spears' songs.
Really,
and she is. I mean, despite the controversy, she is a talented person. I mean, she can sing and she's a great talented pianist, though. I mean, I don't know whether or not. I don't think she has to dress as one of the 4 food groups every now and then, but
Well, that's part of the performing part, and that's part of the show of it, which I do think there's a place for that in music. I come from the school of you put on a good show, and you also play a good show. You're talented musically, vocally, but you also put on a good show and.
Have good stage presence.
Right. We're going to hit on that more with our guest later on, who knows all about that and has worked with people that were masters of that. So that's my thing. It's just I don't like the whole. Okay, we have to feed this to the people. This is what's not. This is what's good now. This is what's acceptable. And I think that's what they do more nowadays. It's almost like I said. It's just this.
So there's no
sort
choice.
Well, there is a choice. There's always a choice. But say the choices you give me are none of the choices that we want.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all the same thing. And I go to American Idol and these shows where it's like they all seem the same to me.
Exactly.
And if they try to be the alternative or different, it's almost the basic like cookie cutter version of what's different and alternative. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, no disrespect to the Coca-Cola. I mean, like say you have Coca-Cola and you have Royal Crown RC Cola.
Right.
And Dr. Pepper.
Right.
Even though all 3 of them are owned by Coca-Cola.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right.
So, and I find it also funny. I was around the house a few weeks ago, and my kid, my daughter and Heather were switching channels. They had on American Idol, and it was down. I guess they're down to picking the final 20 or something like that.
Right.
And they had a mentor on there, and I believe it was Jimmy Iovine,
okay,
the producer. And right before each one would come on and perform, for at least half of them, he kept saying, "Oh, they're great. They got a great voice, and I would sign them up right now. I'd give them a contract right now." And I looked at Heather and I said, "Well, what's the sense of them being on the American Idol at this point? He's already going to give them a contract, right? They don't have to go any further. They don't have to win. He's already said, hey, I'm going to sign them. You know, they're in the top 24, but they don't have to win. I'm going to sign them." And I was thinking, it's almost the way they seem now. It's like they just want to just
instant gratification.
Exactly, instant gratification. Feed them out there, spit them out to the masses, and I think that's one reason why music is not what it used to be. Also, I really do.
Yeah,
it
probably has regressed creativity, but you can't deny that it definitely has progressed, at least on a technological level. I mean, look, I have like certain examples, like we went to LP, and it still exists now. If you want the classic,
it's still the best. I still love records.
Definitely, and they used to have 8-tracks,
right?
And then like sometime in the 70s they were replaced by cassette tapes, right?
Right.
You really can't get artists sell their music on cassettes anymore, because you have now CD compact discs, which I have a copy of Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full, 1987 masterpiece, which even 25 years later it still sounds better than the stuff that's portrayed as rap music now.
Oh, of course.
Oh yes, and even which replaced the cassette tapes back during the 90s, and now you have MP3s, or should I say maybe like 5 years ago, you have MP3s where you could have like 100 songs on one CD, and even iPods, and I mean, thanks to Steve Jobs, I mean, you couldn't fathom having 100 or 200 or more songs on even something bigger than a CD player, my iPod. I mean, it's an old one, it's a 30 gig one. I have over 2,000 songs. Wow. I mean, just imagine if you had like an 80 or 160 gig iPod, or even iPhones, where you have phones where play music and even record,
Right. Well, I mean, I've joked around with some friends about the fact that, where do they go next? Next, I think maybe we'll all just have chips implanted in our head, and all we have to do is just think, I want to hear this song, and bam. Is that the next level after MP? Yeah, is that the next level? So, we don't know. We'll see. But we're going to continue this discussion with our guest who's coming up next. We have the great Newton Collier to join us for the rest of the show. We're going to get his take on the state of music now and in his heyday. So please stay tuned to the Art Block, and we'll be back in a few.
Spartans, my brothers who have fought so gallantly thus far, the blood of my blood that I would give up 1,000 lives for, I ask you to give once more, to sacrifice your sweat and your blood and your fire in honor of all that we hold great. But before we march into the hallowed halls of Ares, we must dine.
In hell?
Not this time.
In apple seeds?
No.
I crave me some Xerxes.
Hold your tongue, warrior.
I love Pompeiles.
No. Tonight, we dine at Greek Deli.
At the Greek Corner Deli, we offer a variety of Mediterranean favorites, including our crowd-pleasing gyro, as well as subs, salads, and tasty desserts. We also carry a large selection of Greek and imported beers, and invite you and 300 of your closest friends to join us for happy hour from 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The Greek Corner Deli, located on 587 Cherry Street in beautiful downtown Macon, Georgia. Look for the flags.
Today's guest, Mr. Newton Collier. His life, actually, his music career alone is like a huge scroll of historical events, and
Welcome, Newton.
Hey, welcome. How you doing? Thank you very much, man. Glad to be here with
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
We're honored to have you. So, Newton, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, which I can't imagine that, tell us a little bit of history. About your early years, your upbringing.
Okay, I was born here in Macon, Georgia. My name is Newton Collier. I lived in the Tyndall Hike area, which so near Mercy University, Little Richard, and Boulevard, and all that is over there. I went to B.S. Ingram School as grammar, and then to Ballard Hudson High School, and from there, I went on to do other things. Now, in the middle of that, I started out my music career. About 8 or 9 years old, I started playing music around Macon. I actually studying music under Miss Gladys Williams, who was a female orchestra leader. And I was actually just taking basic piano, and all of a sudden, one day I happened to go over there, and she was friendly with all these different people. And she had Sammy Davis Jr. over there, so he had a trumpet, and he was playing it. So I got a chance to take 1 or 2 notes on that, and that hooked me there. I wanted to play trumpet from that point on. And one of the things that helped me out quite a bit while I was growing up, it was a guy that came through town in 1948, 49, named Lucky Milner. He worked for a man named Clint Bradley. They were doing shows, and he would put bands together. There would be big time, big bands, and I would listen to that. I loved that big band sound. So after I started playing and got good enough, I went into a Bobby Smith studio. I was about 12, 13, about 14 years old, playing around, called myself recording music with them. We were working behind Wayne Cochran, Otis Redding. There was a bunch of people, Mickey Murray. So many people couldn't even think about it, but it was called Maker Recording Studio. It's now where the Grand Opera House is. The little side door led to the studio. Wow. Another thing that happened there was I got discovered basically through Field Wall and Artists and Promotions. And they put me with Sam and Dave, so I took off and went with them after. And I stayed with Sam and Dave about 10 to 15 years, basically about 15 years and all, and traveling around with them.
So let me ask you something real quick before you get too far. So back up here, when you started working with Otis Redding, how did you connect with him?
Okay, Otis Redding lived in Tender Heights, but I was more like a gopher for them. I didn't actually play with them at the time. I was just hanging around. I kept thinking about this big band sound, and they had a smaller band, but I could hear the big band sound with it. I said, I want to play big band. I want to be in the orchestra. That's what I wanted. Right. But that was sort of like my beginning, and I liked the learning from them.
Right, and so you hooked up when he started performing at the Douglas?
Right, not necessarily the Douglas. They would be like at different clubs around town.
Right.
I would go sneak in and see what could I learn from them.
Right.
They had a trumpet player that was named Sammy Coleman. He was in the Air Force band at the time. He was really good, and I would just hang around with those musicians, and they would teach me.
Watch and learn.
Right.
Right. Well, good. So then you got hooked up with Sam and Dave, and we've seen the footage ourselves, and it's pretty impressive. You had a couple of appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show back in 1969 with Sam and Dave.
Right.
How was that? Tell us about that real quick. I mean,
Okay, Ed Sullivan Show. That was song called Soul Man made a hit. So we had a chance to open up the show and close the show. Opening up the show was unbelievable. I don't know, it must have been 8 million people looking at us at one time. I didn't think about it, but you look out in the audience, it was a small audience, and everybody else do it up. They had the suits and ties on, they all stiff and looking until we started playing. They saw it, like, you could actually see them bobbing around. I'm saying to myself, they moved. No, but it was fun.
Right.
And Ed himself must do all his PR or something, because he even got into it. You can see him bobbing his head, and he wasn't stiff-shouldered and all that. He was wide-eyed, and we went off.
Right.
You know, he came back behind stage, and he congratulated us. It was just wonderful.
Right.
That meeting, that night, he had a band director. His name was Thad Jones, was his band director. And I got a chance to meet Thad that night, and he turned me on to Berklee College of Music, and that's how I got to go to Berklee College of Music. Because I asked him, how did he write the charts for such a big band and they sound so good?
Right.
I'm still in the big band mode.
Right. So Ed didn't have any sort of problem with the performance.
Oh no, he loved it.
Because of his history with like Jim Morrison when the Doors performed out
Right.
there. He had a problem with that. And I've seen, like I said, you guys get down on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Oh,
yeah.
Clips and all. So.
And how many people saw you? How many viewers?
We were probably 8 million people at that time.
8 million, 8 or 10.
That was the #1 show on Sunday night at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, you can't even get 8 million people now. I mean, unless you're running for president or you're on the Super Bowl.
There's so many channels now. Also.
So many
so many channels to choose from.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
There weren't very many then. Yeah. Okay, so when we come back, we're going to take a break in a minute. We want you to tell us on how you got back to Macon, why and when you returned to Macon, and tell us, of course, the very tragic story of how your music career somewhat ended.
Okay,
So
I'm going to have to do that.
we will be back in a few, talk some more with Newton Collier, the great Newton Collier from Otis Redding and Sam and Dave fame.
We'll be back.
Return to Wellston with Solid Ground, the complete first season on DVD.
No way, that's awesome.
The 4-disc set includes all 12 episodes plus cast and crew interviews, behind-the-scenes featurettes, outtakes, and more.
Works for me.
That was easy. Let's get to watching.
Filmed in Middle Georgia, see what the Telegraph called a humorous take on the detective series. Own Solid Ground, the complete first season today.
The moment that I laid eyes on her, I was hooked. She had a glow that said, I'm here, I'm waiting, speak to me, look at what I have to offer. As my eyes scrolled down her sleek, inviting, and provocative frame, I realized that this was no middle-of-the-road dame. She supplied opportunity, character, security, and a healthy boost to my ego. She had me coming back for more.
And we're back on the Art Block with our guest for today, Newton Collier.
Right. Yeah, Newton. So let me ask you. So did you perform on any of these Sam and Dave albums? Are you actually a musician on the albums?
We were more the road band, but there are some albums out there now. Mm-hmm. There was a DVD called Sam and Dave Live, which is floating around out there now. You can get that. Also, there are some overseas material that they made overseas where we played different shows, and they're now bringing those into the American market and things like that. We are on those.
So what was your last? What was the last year you were with Sam and Dave? Do you remember?
Had to be 73 or 74. Some, that was during the time. Some of the members from Sam and Dave went on and formed a group called LTD.
Okay.
And that was with that transition.
Okay, and then so you ended your stint with them. Then you moved to Boston, is that correct?
Right.
You went to Boston. Right. Okay, tell us a little bit about your stay in Boston.
Okay, my stay in Boston, I was working, after I left the road, as to say, I stayed in Boston. I was working at the Sugar Shack as a house musician. I was still getting a chance to play around. I got me a regular job, got married, and one night I was coming home from a gig, and somebody shot me.
Wow.
I was the paymaster for the band. That's all that helped out, too, because they thought I had a lot of money. It was a big band. And I got shot and stayed in the hospital a long time. And the guys with LTD, they went on, they became famous. I stayed in Boston. Right. And after about 10 or 15 years of actual reconstruction surgery and everything, I couldn't play no more. But while I was there, I learned about some electronic horns through my Berkeley connections and everything. And Pat Matheny and Mike Matheny helped me out in curing one of those electric horns. And that's what I actually began to play now. But it took about 5 or 6 years for me to just build up enough energy to build the bone structure back into my jaws and everything to do that.
Right, yeah, that's sad. It's tough.
So it was
really
about
tragic.
So it was about 87 or 88 when I came back to Macon. And I opened up a record shop. I kept that for a few years, and that was
Drove a taxi.
Drove a taxi for a while.
When I first met you,
right.
early 90s, you were still driving a taxi then. Yeah.
And then I basically went back to doing nothing like I am now, trying to work back into the music.
So tell us, and if you don't have too much to say about this, we understand. But tell us a little bit. You have any kind of neat stories that people out there would be interested in concerning either Otis or Sam and Dave? Any I don't know, life on the road? Anything?
Life on the road is rough.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I enjoyed was playing at the Apollo Theater behind Otis Redding and Sam and Dave at the same time. But it was happening. You have a smorgasbord of people coming there, maybe 6 or 7 different acts, and I got a chance to work with Otis. It was at the Apollo and a couple of more TV shows where we were all booked on the same show. So Otis and I had a little thing. Yeah, I finally got on the show. Yeah, you finally got on the show. So we always had this little kickback thing going on all the time.
So do you remember where you were when the plane went down? When the plane crashed?
Yes,
I found out he died. Yeah,
I was in Augusta, Georgia.
Right.
I was on vacation. I had gone to Augusta, Georgia. I was playing with Leroy Lord, and it was a Sunday night. and they told me that the plane had gone down. And so I said, well, Otis can swim. I told Tim Sanders, I said, Otis can swim like that.
Right.
And it stuck with me. I said, Otis can swim. On the way to the show, they said he wasn't. They had pulled Ben Collier out. I said, Ben. And I said, good. Why? Then
Who was Ben?
his name is Ben Collier. Was the trumpet player with the Barcades.
Okay.
He was the only one that was pulled out like that. And then they were talking about they hate bodies here and by that. And so after I was hearing that, about halfway through the show, I just couldn't play no more. I just went and sat in the corner.
Right. Do you remember your last conversation with him? Whether it was in person or on the phone, Otis?
With Otis? Yes, it was around Thanksgiving.
Really?
And it was in Memphis.
Right.
And there was more or less, hey man, I'll see you later on, right man? Yeah man, yeah, be cool man. It was just like that type of conversation.
Right. And what about with what we talked earlier and before the show and what Sam and Dave? What Sam's still alive?
Sam's alive.
Still alive.
Right. Dave passed.
Have you talked to Sam?
Yes,
we're
in communication with each other. Right.
Wow. Okay, that's good. So is he completely out of the music industry at this point?
No, he's not. He does specialty jobs now. He's getting up in age now. He said he don't jump like he used to, but he still has his golden voice. And he can pipe it out. He does a lot of specialty jobs now.
Wow.
And you said that Sam and David, like you, are also from Macon.
No, they're not from Macon. They're from near Folk Valley.
Oh, near Folk Valley. Okay. Middle Georgia area. Okay.
Yeah, Middle Georgia area. Actually, Dave is from Ocilla, and Sam is from Sycamore. They both would call Folk Valley a big city for them because they both were closer to Folk Valley than Macon. They went all the way to Florida, didn't know each other, two separate times to join together like that.
Before we lose this precious time with you, Newton, we want to get, our topic earlier was music and the state of it nowadays, locally, nationally, internationally. What's your take on it? What's your opinion on music now? Do you listen to a lot of the new stuff? Are you disenchanted by it? What do you think?
I'm both. I listen to it, and I listen to it from a critical ear too, because I like to see the musicians actually learn to play the instrument and stop playing with the instrument.
Right.
Learn to read the music. Learn to master your instrument. Don't jump from one instrument to another instrument or one band to the other band. Whatever you're with, you have to stick with it in order to make it work.
Right.
And practice makes perfect.
Right.
You have to practice. I mean,
Perfect practice.
Practice.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about just running over a song. Play that song until you memorize everything in that song, and then go to another song, turn around, put that song into your repertoire, and then play it again.
Right.
Exactly.
And have non-stop shows. The worst thing in the world to see is the musician standing on stage. Hey man, what we gonna play next?
Right.
I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Right.
We definitely learned that in Mr. Holland's Opus. This was a very good movie.
Right.
I mean, because unfortunately, I never had the luxury to play in a band. I mean, I was in the string orchestra back in elementary school. I was first violin, under Ray. Oh, thank you. Under Miss Ray Coleman, who used to be part of the Macon Symphony Orchestra.
Right.
I mean, but I wish I could. It's a very good discipline. It really. Learning an instrument does help with your creativity, not just in performance, just in everyday life.
Since you brought up movies, that reminds me. So you were in the first Blues Brothers movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I was in the first Blues Brothers movie.
Right. How was that?
That was interesting, y'all. They did that. Our section of it was done up in Massachusetts. We went to Collier Simon's place. That's where we met. At Collier Simon's place on the Cape. In Aykroyd and Belushi were there, and I was more with us with hanging out with Steve Cropper and the people from Stax and that type thing. And so I got in on some of the work that they were doing there.
Nice.
Especially the soundtrack. I'm playing on one of the soundtracks there.
You follow the local music scene real quick. We're almost out of time here. You follow the local music scene. I've seen you around all the time at different shows. You make your appearance. Who around here locally do you think is on the right track? I'm not saying for you to take sides or anything. Just is there anybody in particular that stands out now of this new young breed we have around here?
I have a couple of them I really like. What I like like Juby and Flacco, but what I like for them to do is get more business about themselves with the music.
Right.
It's okay to be out there, but the fun time gonna come later. They put too much fun into their business.
Right.
You have to have the business, get the business, and then that fun time is gonna work itself in. Right.
That's good. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way. And I'm sure they'll be glad to hear you say that.
Yes.
But I had a lot of discipline when I was coming up. Between Alan Wallen, Phil Wallen, Gladys Williams, my mama, and 2 preachers. I didn't have time to do anything else but practice to make it perfect.
Right.
And I hate to do that. And when you go to the Apollo or something like that, they're going to throw that music on top of you. They're going to say, I'll see you in about 5 minutes. You have to come back right then and there and perform. If not, next.
You will get booed. Yes.
That's exactly that's a nice way of saying it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I always try to tell them it'll be next. And it won't be you next.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we got to hit a break one more time here, and then we'll come back and close it out with Newton Collier. Stay tuned.
What kind of madhouse is this? Is this any way to treat a man? Where's your humanity?
Athens Mattress Outlet, proudly serving Athens and the University of Georgia community. Featuring the Energy Series Pillow Top for only $3.99. Avoid the hassle of moving a mattress when your student leaves home to attend UGA. Athens Mattress Outlet is an online retailer based in Athens and now serving all of Georgia. Call or click today.
The only good bed is an Athens mattress bed.
Welcome back to the Art Block here on Macon TV WPGA. We want to just close out this last minute by saying thanks to Newton Collier for joining us. It's been very informative, and we appreciate his time. Any last words, Newton? Anything to sum up all this conversation?
Yes, I'd like to say all these young musicians, practice, and practice some more. The more you practice, the better you sound. And then don't take that for actually. Go out and listen to someone else. Find you someone out there that's already there. There's no shame to imitate because that's how you get great. Thank you.
All right. And we'd like to thank our sponsors again, Athens Mattress Outlet, Greek Corner Deli, Middle Georgia Talent, Aaron Trout Harris. Without you guys, we couldn't have done this, and we can't be doing this. Thanks a lot. See you next week, 12:30 p.m.
And support the arts.